Well, hello. I'd like to welcome you to another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks that I've been using throughout the week, with a little twist this week, so let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And do you have a cool town nearby that you kind of like? Or maybe you've got a town nearby that's recovered from a disaster? Either way, let us know down in the comments. So let's dive into the pens. Welcome to this week's writing sample. This week I was using the Kaco Master, the Pilot Custom 823 again, Platinum Izumo, Nakaya Decapod Twist, Reform 4000, which I think was a first impression this week, Cora, a Platinum 3776 with a coarse nib, a Waterman Carène, and a Lamy 2000. As has had to become my new custom, I will be recording my writing samples in this lovely seafood-flavored cognitive surplus notebook. So the first pen up is a Kaco Master. I recently did a first impression of this, and I also did its gold nib cousin. I decided to ink up this one. You'll probably see the gold nib cousin eventually. Like I said in the first, and I didn't clean the sticker off. Like I said in the first impression, I like them. So that's why I'm going to use them. They're not the most expensive feeling. I mean, the next pen feels night and day difference because it's a much better plastic that's used in it. Although, here is what disinfectant does to that much better plastic. I am a bit curious to try some plastic samples, maybe just soaking them in that disinfectant and see if I can destroy some other types of plastic. And that's weird, but that's where my brain is taking me. So you may, at some point this year, be seeing a video where I destroy plastics in a disinfectant, which to me sounds like all kinds of fun, but there's a reason I'm a science teacher. So this is a Kaco Master. With an extra fine, I had to look there. The inking isn't really one of my favorites. It's Iroshizuku. I don't even really know why I bought it. Momiji. But it's there. It's one of those little 15 milliliter bottles, and doggone it, that is, if in my quest to get rid of ink bottles, that is a low-hanging fruit, so I'm going to darn well use up my Iroshizuku bottles just to get rid of some bottles of ink. And hopefully consolidate my ink storage and never buy so many bottles of ink ever again. But, that whole using ink up thing is, unless it's black ink, it's like tilting at windmills. To dream the impossible dream. See, I know how to be all culture-y and stuff. This next pen is not the damaged 823 I showed you. And no, that's not damaged. That's a sticker I need to clean off again. It's a brand new Pilot Custom 823. Full of Pilot blue ink. I bought the broad nib on it, which, even though this ink isn't, a particular favorite, although I like it better this nib, I am enjoying the nib. So I think we may put this bottle of ink in storage for a while and try some fun inks in this pen. But then again, I'm the guy who has started doing all of his first impressions using Parker Washable Blue. Again, in an effort to use up a bottle of ink. So maybe the Pilot Blue will replace it when I use up the Parker. Or, weirdly enough, I also have a bottle of Schaefer Blue, so we'll be using up blue ink forever. That sounded depressing. This is a Platinum Izumo. Every time I look at it, it's like I find something new. Like, I don't remember noticing these red sparkles here before. Remember the clouds, but I just don't remember noticing the red sparkles. And I'm sitting here setting up for this video, and I noticed them tonight. Some imperfections here, but, you know, I went back, looked at the original video, and I'm like, okay, I guess they were there then, too. And there's some dust on it, because I had windows open, so dust comes in. And it's a dusty house anyway. I need to dust more often. Probably all the smoke in the air from the fires out west isn't helping with the situation either. I like this ink quite a lot better than the Momiji. You know, every so often you're just in the mood for a nice orange. This is just much nicer color than that. So again, it's an Iroshizuku, which is why I'm comparing the two. Yu-yake. My next pen is the Nakaya Decapod Twist. I don't find new things in this design, but I really enjoy looking at it. It's just a very attractive pen. And, bonus, it writes well. And apparently holds a good seal, because this ink sat in it for about a month when I thought that the pen just needed to be cleaned out, not realizing it was full. But started right up like a champ. Iroshizuku Shin-kai. Another one of those 15 milliliter bottles I just really want to use up. A nice color, and it shades well and everything. I just I have too many bottles of ink, so I want to get rid of some. And this seems like a good color. Might actually be interesting to compare this to like Pilot Blue Black or something. Or maybe do like, you know, Penultimate Dave has been doing a lot of videos where he compares colors. You know, all these different inks of the same color. It was interesting when he did his black video, and he barely had enough to do half a page, and I thought, well, how many different types of black ink do I have? Yeah, I've got a problem. This next pen, I believe, was a first impression I published this week. This is a Reform 4000. I definitely see a little bit of a Pelikan look to this. You know, even down to the bill. The ink in it is Parker Washable Blue. Just a very reliable blue, very well behaved, very nice ink. Not a very exciting ink, but a very nice ink. You know, Parker seems to have basically given up on the ink game. They've got 3 colors and they're calling it good. I really like their green ink. In fact, ODE sent me some samples of Parker Quink green to try out, and one of them opened up in transit, which is okay because he packaged it well. I'm actually saving it because I want to talk about shipping as a video here. I'm thinking about doing that as okay, I'm talking in the future tense because as I'm going to admit at the end of this video, either last week's or this week's Pens in Use is a fake, so I can get on top of Pens in Use and start putting it out on schedule. But anyway, I'm thinking about doing a video this week on packaging for shipping, because I did some shipping recently with a gentleman in California, and now a gentleman from Portugal. And I've shipped in the past with a gentleman from Sweden or Norway? Norway. Sorry. I have people I know in both countries, and everything kind of runs together when it's this late at night. No, not a night person. And I'm trying to cook out there too, and do dishes. So, back to the story, because I'm rambling. Anyway, one of them leaked, and luckily he packaged it well, so it's not an issue. Huh. Motorcycle, I guess. Really loud one. Cora, which I honestly didn't think would still be inked up this week, but I'm still writing with it. Not one of my favorite inks. Maybe that's why I'm still writing with it. Aurora. It just... I know it's supposed to be exciting, because Aurora is another one like Parker, where they, for years, never had any colors. Then one day it was like, oh, we're going to introduce blue-black to go with our black and our blue. And everybody's like, whoa. And then just recently they came out with well, I shouldn't say a host. I mean, Sailor has a host of inks. But they came out with a few more colors. Judging by this one, they needn't have bothered, but what do I know? I'm kind of getting more toward the attitude I don't need so many inks, and the fewer I have, the better, because it's the pens that are fun. I want enough inks to have some variety and some fun, but I don't need that whole bookshelf full of ink behind me. Where was I? Oh, sorry. Platinum 3776. This is a Shungyo finish. Nice subtle finish. They're continuing to do special editions. And this one has a coarse nib, of course. And I have Platinum Carbon Black, and I've had it in for way too long. So this is a Platinum 3776. Coarse, not cursive italic, just plain old coarse. And the ink is platinum. So when I eventually get down to cutting down on my number of black inks, I will probably keep a bottle of this as well as my everyday writing ink, because this is so good for addressing envelopes. Not so great in this pen for addressing envelopes, because I have to write very large with this pen, but just in general, it's good for addressing envelopes. Because it's a very permanent ink. Why don't I use it as my regular everyday ink? Well, a couple reasons. One is it's much more difficult to wash out of a pen. Second of all, I don't really care for how it looks on the paper. I mean, look at that. That is flat. No character at all. This is my Waterman Carène. Originally purchased it with a medium nib, and then was fortunate to be able to upgrade it to a broad nib. The ink in it is a nice orange. I actually like this orange better than that Iroshizuku So this is Diamine Autumn Oak. And finally, for my last trick, a pen that normally by this time would have been filled a bunch of times, but not this year, because I've been using a Pelikan Stola at school, and it's been seeing most of the use. This is my Lamy 2000. This is, of the two, this is my preferred pen. It's definitely the more comfortable of the two, but for some reason, I decided to just experiment with having school pens and home pens, and I thought, oh, I'll get more use out of a lot of pens that way. No, it doesn't work that way. I found out just how much writing with black ink I do at school. I was sure most of my ink would be spilled at school correcting stuff, but that's not the case. It's writing. Notes at meetings and so on. Notes to myself. Heck, I'm not ashamed to correct papers with this either. And I know I remarked about this carbon black having no personality and just being very flat, and I know that's what this is. But I don't know, it just seems to work. Plus, again, easier to clean out. Who knows, maybe I'll end up settling on Parker Black or something. Parker Black is very well behaved on lower quality paper. Although so is this ink. And actually, what I was using was Lamy Black, until I got that liter bottle of the Pelikan. And that was very well behaved on lower cost paper, so who knows where I'm going to end up. It's a wild story that only a fountain pen lover would understand. So, let's return to camera A, and we'll talk about this fake, whether this or last week's Pens in Use was a fake-ish episode. So those are the pens and inks that I've been using throughout this week. Now, last week's Pens in Use and this week's Pens in Use, I realized why I'm struggling to get this out on time. It's because I've always filmed it on Sunday. Except usually I don't publish it till the following Friday. So it sits for 5 days. Well, when you're filming on Sunday, to publish on Sunday, it doesn't work so well. So I decided I'm going to get ahead. And I filmed 2 Pens in Use in a row. And this one, of course, is going to be a Pens on the Road here in a minute, but I want to explain what's going on first. This one, one of these two is a fake Pens in Use. Because I just threw a bunch of pens that I had inked up in, even though I may not have been using them all this past week, just so I'd have something different. But now, come Sunday night, this episode will have been published, and I will be filming next week's based on the pens that I am going to use this coming week. So, what those pens will be a surprise to me and you. So now you know another deep, dark secret about Pens in Use. It's actually, by the time you get it, except for this year when I've been kind of lazy, it's about 2 weeks out of date by the time you see it. But it's authentic. So I think that's important. So hopefully this 1 week of faking one of these 2 episodes, whether it was tonight's episode or last week's, I'll never tell, will get me through it and get me back on track to actually putting these episodes out on time, because it's not fun for me to have them be late. Because usually I would film on a Sunday night, and then one weeknight when I got a few free minutes, I'd start editing, and then I'd edit some more another night, and get through it during the week, and then publish on Friday. Hasn't been working that way, and it's not going to work that way tonight. But in future. So hopefully this is me getting back on track with that show, getting it back on Friday afternoons at 3 o'clock Mountain Time, UTC -6, I think, where it belongs. So, let's dive into Hettinger, North Dakota. So I'm headed into Hettinger from the east on Highway 12. Hettinger is a town of about 1,200 people, so a little bit smaller than my town, but not too bad. One thing I'm struck by right now is the flippin' blue sky. Hettinger has a good array of businesses, and it's a very attractive, well-kept town, so very comparable to my town, to be honest. People here don't like to admit it, but it is. And, we're going down part of Main Street here. It continues north. We're headed south here. And then there is a little bit of Main Street-ish type stuff east and west. And the town is built on a side hill, although the dash cam kind of flattens the whole town. Well, anything I drive through, it gets flattened by the dash cam. But anyway, I was headed out to a cross-country meet, and again, I'm just struck by how blue the sky was back then. Now it's all gray because of the smog. So you got a quick preview there of things to come. I don't know. I've just always enjoyed walking around Hettinger. I don't know that I particularly want to live there, but that may be loyalty to my own town. But it is a neat place to visit. So here we are at the golf course where the cross-country meet was held. They're mostly doing cross-country as smaller, more local meets, just to limit the exposure to COVID. So it was neat. Hettinger never had one. Here's Hettinger High School, and it's a school of many additions, well, like mine. There's where the Hettinger High School attaches to kind of Hettinger Junior High / Hettinger Elementary. And then we're looking up past the rest of the elementary toward their gym. So, again, many additions. And I love Hettinger's tree-lined streets. That's part of why I enjoy walking around Hettinger. I just like the trees right there. My town seems to want to cut them all down. There's BNSF, probably the old depot. A neat park, but I couldn't figure out how to get there without crossing the tracks, which you're not supposed to do. And then here, just some more old stuff that I thought was cool. And then here's a train that pulled up and randomly parked while I was filming, so I thought, hey, let's throw her in. And then here, just another old grain elevator. I like old grain elevators. And Lightning Lake, which is right on Hettinger. Old gas station that's been restored into a newer business. Always happy to see that. And then a look north up Main Street. So you get more of a notion that it's on a side hill, but again, yeah. And there's an old building that is abandoned. Kind of the small town thing. It's a lot of abandoned buildings in small towns nowadays. And I don't know if it's going to change. But there's still businesses on their Main Street, just like in many small towns. And I love that their Main Street is tree-lined. That's something I've just always liked. Here's just some more old businesses, and some of them still open. Others look good, but they've been abandoned. And then a neat little park there. And I don't know, is First National Bank a national chain? I see them all over the place. And yeah, local steakhouse got affected by the COVID. And, what you're going to do. And, White Drug is still open, but Edna's, Daz's is closed. And that one I almost feel like has been turned into a home. Could be wrong. Post office up on Highway 12, kind of on the side hill. Courthouse, Adams County, up on almost kind of the top of the hill, not quite, but close. And then we're just looking down over Hettinger from across the street from the courthouse. I love their AM radio station sign, very cool. And murals. Yeah, I wish I kicked myself afterwards. Why didn't you get more footage of the murals? And, of course, the train pulled into Hettinger as I was leaving. So, on the trip home from the golf course back to Hettinger, all the bugs that weren't frozen in the freezes woke up and were smashed all over my windshield. So, it wasn't real pretty. And there are no gas stations between Hettinger and my next destination. So, no more dash cam footage. It's gross. Now, I'm wearing this mask, and I will take it off so you can understand me. I'm wearing this mask because all the wildfires out west have filled the air here with smog. I discovered earlier this week that I was sneezing and coughing. It really started on Saturday and just got bad on Sunday and was, really bad on Monday. And I wasn't sleeping. It's actually been a week or two. I've had trouble sleeping because I wake up constantly through the night to cough. And suddenly, and I was to the point I was thinking, oh my God, maybe I better go get tested for COVID. And I had a revelation one day putting my mask on as I prepared to enter the school building. Within minutes, my symptoms were gone. My head drained out, everything drained out. And symptoms came back at lunch when I took my mask off for lunch and went away again in the afternoon. And then they came back as I walked home. And as I was sitting here at home, blowing my nose and getting stuffed up, I thought, what if I just try wearing this? I cleared up. I ended up sleeping that night wearing a mask, which is a little uncomfortable falling asleep. Probably the best sleep I've had in a few weeks. And wow, so I've been sleeping with a mask ever since, and even running around at home and outdoors with the mask on, because it's really helping filtering out my breathing. I don't know if it's the wildfire smoke or if there's some allergen in the air. You can still hear it a little in my voice that I'm healing up. But this thing is really making a difference. And if I leave this off like I did earlier tonight for supper, I will feel myself start to clog up. But the moral of the story is, wow, that smog is really miserable to live with. And that's a good segue, because I say it's miserable to live with because, I got to wear a mask, and I'm coughing and sneezing. What if you're out west where the fires are? Those pictures are like something after the apocalypse. So much smoke in the air, hideous visibility, and I can't even imagine trying to breathe out there. And then the property damage, the lives lost. It's a nightmare. So I'm going to take you to a nightmare that happened here in North Dakota. Bucyrus, North Dakota is a town of about 25 people. And it was hit by a wildfire. Wildfires in North Dakota are not like wildfires in California or Oregon because we don't have forests, mostly. But grass burns, and so do towns, and Bucyrus burned. So let's take a look. I'm going to show you first some old photos that I took. Back then I wasn't doing much with video. I wish I would have, but I didn't. There were a couple people I talked to while I was touring Bucyrus, because I was doing it for the local paper, that I really wish I'd gotten on video, because they were some very heartfelt interviews. So anyway, I'm going to show you Bucyrus. The old grain elevator was never hit by the fires that swept through Bucyrus back on October 17th of 2012. This was a fire that took over 6,000 acres, and one of the things that fed it was 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. There were a total of 24 structures burned. Of those, 4 were occupied homes, 3 were vacant, and look! All the utility poles were destroyed for about 3 miles. To this day, the cause of the fire is not known. So we don't really know what caused it. Also, kind of amazing, no injuries in this fire. And actually this fire, I'm getting off script. That part was spared by the fire, because it jumps over places. And there's the elevators. One of the things that with prairie fires is they jump a lot. And actually that's true of a lot of other fires as well. But then here, this building, the church, a lot of people were pointing to that as, it's a miracle that the church was spared. No. The fire departments, because there were a lot of them there, were spraying it with water and making sure it was spared. Because God would be kind of an asshole if he's like, burn everybody else's house down, we're going to spare mine. So hopefully he's not an asshole. Otherwise we're all in a lot of trouble. This business burnt The house beside it did not. I actually talked to the lady that lives in that house. Or lived. I don't know if she's still there. But yeah, a lot of damage and a lot of outbuildings that, it's hard to say, but looked like they were full of trash. I don't know. And then, just parked equipment was damaged. You have to remember, this is people's lives. I know some people look at this and say, well, it's pretty small. Well, it's not small to the people whose lives just got burned up. A fireman was telling me one of the problems with these fires in the prairie is rabbits or pheasants will cower in fear until they catch on fire, and then they take off running or flying, as the case may be, and then they spread it. That plastic garbage can was spared. Weird. So, of course, the Lutheran church still stands, and somebody parked his Camry in front of it to take this picture. And then I walked around trying to remember where everything had been. I couldn't get enough signal to look at my old photos on my phone, so I was just like, well, do my best. I do know on this side of that fence by the trailer was mostly burned building. I believe there was a home there. Gone now. There was a building there. You can see part of the foundation. But, yeah, Bucyrus is really healed up. To look at it now, you wouldn't know there'd been such a large-scale fire. One of those Quonsets was destroyed in the fire, but seems to have been removed. I see several of them are replaced with new Quonsets, so good for them. And this still looks the same. It was spared by the fire, and it's still there. They had a school at one time in Bucyrus, but it is no longer. So I guess this just shows that there is hope after a fire, but the town does change. And, yeah, there was a home in here, too. So, hope that was interesting. So, if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And feel free to leave a comment down below. Do you resent me faking pens in use this week? Do you have nifty neighboring towns? Maybe there's a town nearby that's recovered from a disaster. So let us know down in the comments. So I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.